Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode. This episode is very important. We are discussing about this is part of Talent Economy Summit because this week we are arranging this Talent Economy Summit and specifically from Asia Pacific, from developing world, people, corporations, governments, research organizations. They love to know more about longevity, and we have our Professor Edward, Professor David Schumacher, Professor David Smith, Mr. Marshall, Professor Ching, and our honorable fellow from World Talent Economy Forums, Mr. Adam. So I want to give chance Professor Edward.
Ah, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be on for the whole show because this is one of the most exciting shows. What can be more important than not getting sick and dying? Everything else that we talk about in this forum, is premised on the fact that we're around and we're healthy and we can do stuff. And so this is one of the most important shows you've done, and all of them are important. Okay, so I want to make kind of three important points here. The first is that we're at a place in human history, never before place where we've been, and that is we have both the theory and the technology to have ourselves live longer, healthier lives. We're living to 100 or 120 or 150, and being healthy, not in a bed and hooked up to machines, is now possible. We've seen the work over the last decade or two of Aubrey de Grey. For those of you listening, your listeners, read Ending Aging by Aubrey de Grey. This is one of the premier books on the subject. Lifespan by David Sinclair is another excellent book if you want to read it. I also like a whole lot The Science Technology of Growing Young. Sergey Young has done a good book. So again, the listeners, who are really interested in this, the theoretical work is out there, and the technology is out there. The sequencing a human genome has gone from $100 million in 2001 to $10 million in 2007. It's under $1,000 today. So we can sequence human genomes and find out all the issues that can make you sick and in the future. The second thing is we get more and more diagnostics that can understand the implications of this, of your blood and so forth. So we can predict problems that you may have. Number three, monitoring. More and more we have wearable, or we're going to have even injectable diagnostics, so you can monitor your health in real time. And so if a problem is occurring, it can be perhaps dealt with. Number four, again, real-time monitoring. So if it looks like you're about to have a heart attack, I suspect in the next 10 or 15 years, the medics will know it before you do, and they'll be able to react. But here's the most important thing: prevention. That's the fifth thing. In other words, for example, in 2018, the enzyme telomerase was sequenced. What does that actually mean? Telomerase is the enzyme that keeps the telomeres on your chromosomes growing. Every time your cells reproduce, the telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter. And when they disappear, your cells stop reproducing and you age. It's called senescence. We're actually exploring how to use this enzyme to slow or stop aging. Or another example is the CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editing tool was recently used to turn off the production of tau proteins in neurons in the brain. What does that mean? Clumping of tau proteins is what is associated with Alzheimer's. Researchers are figuring out literally in labs today and research today how to turn off Alzheimer's. I could go on and on about that. So the theory and technology is there, but there's two other elements that we're going to need, two other important elements. Number one is we need to reform the process of the healthcare system. In the United States, for example, it takes 10 to 12 years at a cost of about $3 billion to bring a new product from lab to patient. And in part of that is because we have a Food and Drug Administration that has to certify medical treatments. It was created in 1962, and it really isn't keeping up with the technology. A lot of the delays, while people are literally getting sick and dying, a lot of those delays are because they don't have a good method. We have entrepreneurs who are trying to come up with great methods to deal with diseases. We need entrepreneurs to come up with methods to basically test for the efficacy of products. And so that's a crucial reform we need. Remember, in the United States, within a month of the COVID outbreak in March of 2020, a vaccine had been developed, but it wasn't made available until December, the end of the year, 500,000 dead Americans while it was in testing. And it's not just for that. You can take a look at all the possible research, for example, in Alzheimer's and other things that are cut off short because a small entrepreneurial company can't stomach $3 billion in 10 to 12 years. So we need a lot of reforms of the insurance system, the certification system. That's a whole different discussion we can have. The third thing, my final point is this. In the future, we're going to need entrepreneurs to pull all of this together. We're going to need a Steve Jobs of healthcare. Just like you've heard the example to your listeners that 15 years ago nobody had smartphones. Today, 87% of American adults have smartphones because of competition, because of entrepreneurs trying to figure out how to do these things. Imagine that same dynamic to deal with your health, to sell you, hey, here's what we can do to make sure you don't have that heart attack. That's what's possible right now. This is not science fiction, my friends in the Asian Pacific area. And you can be part of this. I want you to be part of this because this is global. And I have to get off, unfortunately, but this is one of the most exciting topics. And I will yield to my friends here, to the Davids and the others. And thank you very much, Sharif, for this wonderful topic. Keep up the good work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Professor Edward. Professor David Schumacher.
Well, Edward, thank you for the great introduction and your passion, obviously, in this particular area. Now, you've heard me talk on this topic before on this particular show. I want to remind you of one thing that I talked about before. Coming from the Transhumanist Party, one of our core values, matter of fact, our very first core value is all about longevity and health span extension, primarily through the use of technology. One of the key platform planks that we have has to do with what Edward was talking about, which is the removal of barriers for medical research and development of treatments. So the Transhumanist Party is obviously very interested in this, and we work actively to promote that. Now, you've heard that before. The different direction I want to take today on health and longevity is talking about how we get from where we are to where we might like to go. Today, as I look around, I see conventional aging all around me. People that are more senior than me, I see how they're being treated, and primarily their health. If you can imagine an upside down U or a bell curve, it started out growing as they were young, and then during their peak productive years tend to level off and then start back down on the other side, the typical bell curve. So in the last part of this bell curve, pain management, making people comfortable, essentially helping people live until they die is where we're at currently. Where I see improvements coming in the near term has to do with extending the healthy extension of life and improving quality of life. So we still start out on this trajectory as youth. We still have our peak years. And then the idea is to try to maintain this for as long as we can, if you can imagine the graph, until we reach that point of death, and hopefully not only have a more comfortable period, not have to resort to just pain management, but actually make good quality improvements in the body so that those years of production, those years of creativity are extended. And then, if any at all, we would spend a very small amount of time before death in an uncomfortable situation. That clearly would be an improvement, clearly is something that I'm working for. But the Transhumanist Party also looks further down the road. And that typically is labeled radical life extension, or there's other terms for that. And typically what that means is coming up with some of the things that Edward was talking about, using CRISPR-Cas9 and other technologies, telomerase technology, for example, to essentially take the expiration date off of humans, to not have death by natural causes as something that shows up on a death certificate. That we continue this rise and level period and can continue on, and perhaps even through experiments like Greg Fahey on thymus regeneration and others, actually be able to take and improve the quality of life during the peak period by physiologically rolling back what we would gauge as the age process. I mean, chronologically, you look at the calendar and you say, I am this old, but you can take tests today. There are about five clocks that I'm aware of through scientific testing, through epigenetics, through blood testing, and other various means to determine where you are relatively healthy compared to your chronological age. So it'd be great to be able to continue to increase in chronological age, but not increase or perhaps even improve in your total physiological age. So that's what radical life extension is about. In both the second and the third cases, we have significant impacts on society. Some people call this the longevity dividend. By increasing the productive life of individuals as they age physically, they don't have a drain on the health and welfare system, and they add back to society by continuing to produce, to continuing to be creative, continuing to intergage as humans, and making quality of life not only for themselves, but for everybody else better as we go. So I'm pleased to see that there's work being done in both the second and the third area. And I'm pleased to see that some of that is being spearheaded out of Asia. The Healthy Aging Prize for Asian Innovation seeks to recognize and amplify innovative policies and programs and services and products that address the changes facing aging societies. Japan, of course, is one of these that's heavily pushing that. And I'm really glad to see that going in that part of the world. They award prizes based on people producing good innovations in this regard today. And you can go to their website, you can Google it, go to their website and see what they've awarded for the last, well, at least the last 2 years, if I remember right. So those are some of the things that we can do. And as we talk further on, I'll talk about some of the other innovations that we can do today. But for now, Sharif, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Professor David Smith David Schumacher, for your excellent explanations. And definitely, yes, I also want to promote this Transhumanist Party. They impressed me with their work, with their professional teams, and especially research is very important. They're bringing research and science and technology in the front line of politics. This is very, very important for all of the peoples around the world. Professor David Smith, how you want to analyze today's topic and what great explanation you want to bring from corporation.
Well, particularly with Edward talking about the entrepreneurship and everything in there, one of the important things is I look at this whole marketplace for anti-aging longevity, just looking at that sliver of it, separated from the rest of healthcare and others, is in 2020 that had a market value of about $37 billion in 2020. So it is one where there is significant work out there and what is being done. But when you begin to look at this, it's kind of important to begin to look at some of the other elements of it as well, too, and where that's headed. To just put some numbers on the table that I find totally fascinating is between 2015 and 2050, it's predicted that the proportion of the world's population over 60 years old will double from about 12% where it is today to about 22%. So let me kind of give that a closer number. If you go back and look at the year 2020, the number of people aged 60 and above outnumbered people who were younger than 5 years old. And that statistic to me is just amazing. is that as we begin to look at that on the curve, beginning to go back and remember that the whole thing of life expectancy has changed. If I go back to 1900, the average life expectancy was 49 years, where if I go up to today, it's 85 years, which is actually backtracked 1 year because of COVID. So we see life expectancy going up. But then part of what you've said in here is we're also looking at aging. And life expectancy and aging are different. And one of the things that we saw as life expectancy goes up, that the number of chronic diseases also goes up. One of the things that I hate to admit is that as we get older, and I use the word older, not old, but as we get older, our body is more susceptible to disease. We have all these other elements which fall into it. And by age 65, if I look in the United States, about 60% of people have multiple chronic conditions, which are really affecting their quality of life and what's going on there. Edward did a great job of talking about some of the genetic factors, and those are very important as we look at this topic. Also, you see that the way we're able to diagnose now is very, very different. And there's really a tremendously growing body of knowledge of different biological models and how they're used and how we can contribute to them. We've talked about this show many times about the concept of a digital twin. Well, we can have a digital healthcare twin too, that we can begin to run models and simulations against. And that's being done a lot more today. Even as we look at new drugs, as we look at new treatment regimes, these are often modeled in computers and that type of simulation before it begins to put in place. Diet is an important part of this, is one of the questions has come up on that. And diet has to kind of play into it. And we're seeing multiple facets of diet and how it will work with this. And unfortunately, there's not a consensus yet on the pillars of what diet can do to really extend it long. What we know is that one component of all healthy diets have in common is they avoid ultra-processed and inflammatory tools. So they kind of want you not to have processed sugars, preservative, industry-led animal products are really one of the places to eat. Look there and what eat. But what they say is to be healthy, to extend your life, not just healthy, but for age extension, is whole plants, wild caught fish, the right amount of protein, really high quality meat, not avoid all meat, but high quality meat, and food that are very low in sugar. But the whole point of part of this is it's a balancing act. And that balancing act is one that is very important to extending your life and reducing the effects of aging. Today, some of the statistics say that the shift is that at age 70, today with life expectancy, they have seen with all the advances that our age now is 40 in physical life versus 70 in calendar life. And that's a good thing. And I think we're going to see that trend go where there is going to continue to be this gap between your physical age and your age on your human body. I personally think I'm at least 30 years younger than my calendar age. And if you look at people trying to keep up with me, some of them believe that pretty true. But there's a lot of science and things that can go in there. And the factors are so broad. It's food, it's the environment where you're living, it's your lifestyle, it's the access you have to not just advanced Western medicine, but the access you have to the modalities of medicine, of Western medicine, Eastern medicine, how you do your mental work, things like yoga and others are becoming important. How do you manage your stress? And I personally believe that stress is one of the things that will dramatically alter your life expectancy going forward. I could keep on going, but Sharif, let me let some others jump in it. And like I said, at a point later on, I would like to actually come back and look at the technology elements of how the aging process is. And that gives opportunities for entrepreneurs and for governments and universities to really jump in. So Sharif, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marshall.
Thank you, Sharif. Thank you, David, both Davids and Hugh, and it's been a fascinating conversation so far. I think both Davids have presented some very important information. Of course, my take is a little different than everybody else's because my focus for our engagement around the world, especially for the developing world, has to do with the environment. There's an environmental crisis. And I think David Smith pointed out two elements here that were really good, and that is the difference between aging and longevity, or aging and longevity versus health, and the age of health. So David says he's in his 70s, but his real age is 40. I don't believe that. I think his real age is 18, but that's another story. But because he is so enthusiastic and so filled with vitality, and I think vitality is another form of longevity and aging process, and a lot of that has to do not only with your physical health, but your mental and spiritual health. And I think that if we divorce one from the other and we pigeonhole these or stovepipe these ideas, humans are composed of all these elements. There's my background. I have a degree in psychology and clinical psychology. So I've been involved in the psychological process of humans, but I'm also now currently involved in the environmental impacts on humans that's caused both by nature and by mankind. One of the things I'd like to bring to the table in this conversation is that, maximum lifespans are really determined by the rate of aging for a species, inherent in its genes, supposedly, and by the environment. There was a study recently in the UK that said, no, it's not the environment, it's genetic. And that's what it is. But we know that's not true. And because we have other studies that show the opposite of that study, and that actually implicate that environment has a great role to play, especially in the developing world, where there is more pollution, more greenhouse gas emissions, poor water resource, poor soil health. David Smith and David Schumacher talked about food as an element in aging. And it's true. If you improve the soil health and the soil biome, then you have an opportunity to improve the quality of the crops that we grow. And then there's a question of what methodology are you using. The current methodology worldwide is industrial agriculture. It's almost as big an industry as big oil and big coal or big chemical. And industrial agriculture uses a lot of chemicals. It uses artificial chemicals, and there's an opportunity to do what's called regenerative farming. And I know that previous books have been shown, so here's one I'm going to show. This one is on regenerative growing a regenerative revolution, and it's bringing our soil back to life by David R. Montgomery, and it's about regenerative farming. And what that shows is in this book, and you can go online and get it or read it, and what it shows is that we have an opportunity to create more healthy lifestyles, more health in the population, specifically in areas where soil is depleted and water is tainted. And we have an opportunity to turn that around and make it so that that's not the case for most of the world, not just the developing world, not just for the developed world, but also for the developing world. But interestingly enough, even in the United States, a lot of the soils are depleted. There is a company known as Standard Process in Wisconsin that has what is called 5 inches of loam of black soil that it's grown over since 1928. And it creates food supplements that are whole food supplements that help conditions that set aside not traditional medicine, but a holistic approach to medicine. And as both David's talked about, you need both approaches, because traditional medicine is good. It helps us reduce the issues of cardiovascular disease that is stimulated through blood diseases and unhealthy diets. So we know there's a connectivity to all these elements, and what it goes back to is in large part, not totally, is the environment. And one of the things that we know about the environment, and just to take a classic example, there's both nature and man-made climate crisis. So to give you a nature-made climate crisis recently, in near Tonga was the explosion of the underwater volcano that caused tremendous devastation in Tonga and the surrounding areas. And it's very difficult to get help to those people. And hopefully we will restore those people back to some semblance of civilization. The key here is not just nature, but also man-made. Over the past 200 years, man has done tremendous advancements through technology. The gasoline engine, the nuclear power, all these elements have come about through science. But what it has also brought with it some downsides. There's an upside and a downside to everything. And in this case, we have more greenhouse gas emissions than ever before. We're reaching a life-threatening possibility of a huge amount of what we would call climate migration. There's the possibility that within less than 7 years, we'll have 200 million climate migrants on this planet. What kind of health will those people be in? What kind of health issues will that translate through either zoonotic diseases, which are diseases that are transmitted between species, which have already occurred? The pandemic is one of them. What is that going to pose to humankind? So it's my contention, along with my fellow panelists here, that yes, we need a transhumanist approach to this. We need to take technology, we need to improve it, but the technology needs to be a broad spectrum. And that broad spectrum should include the technologies that we can bring to market through entrepreneurship and through sustainable practices in soil, air, water quality, and improving the environment. So I'll leave it at that. I'll just make one more comment, and this is my joke of the day and the evening. David looks like he's 18 age-wise in terms of his energy, and I would say the rest of my panelists are probably in that age range. My joke is when we bring interns into my company, one of my team always goes to the interns and gives them an introduction to the company, and they say, "Oh, go ask Marshall how old he is." And then they say to him, the hint is go look up Wells Fargo Bank. Now, many people probably are not familiar with Wells Fargo Bank, but it's a bank from the West, from the cowboy days out West. It's still around today. It's a very strong bank. And look up when they created their first innovations. So they would come to me and they would say to me they come and ask at the end of the orientation, I interview them and I say, "Well, how old are you, Mr. Ramel?" We normally don't ask those questions. We were told to ask you that question. I said, "Well, I'm 140 years old." They get, 140 years old? How can that be? I said, "Well, I was born before the first innovation adopted by Wells Fargo." And they'd go, "Oh, the ATM." I said, No. the stagecoach. The stagecoach was invented in 1852, and I was born in 1851. Of course, that's my joke. I wasn't, but just since it's age related, I thought I'd share that with you. Thank you.
Professor Ching.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like everyone is talking about it, and I'm doing it. Also, David Smith is also doing it. Okay, so that's the main thing. Okay, I also need to recommend to David that if you go, you should have your age measured. Okay, and I got it from Glycan age measurement. Glycan. If you mention Hugh 20, you got 20% discount. Okay. So actually, if we all come here to talk, we should all have our age measure that we report how effective we're doing this. Okay. So, first, I think this is one of the, most relevant topic, like some other people believe. The reason I believe it's relevant is it's complete, you see. Okay, people may not understand what I mean by complete. Okay, for example, one of the audience, one of the people who ask questions, Anika asked, what caused, the main factors in longevity?
Anika asked,
Oh,
yes.
what are main factors that affect longevity? Anika, okay. Great. Okay. The factors, in my opinion, after a long time of study this, I'm definitely one of the person in this longevity research. Okay, because I'm doing it. I know all the people in longevity research personally, basically. Some of them very close. You see, there's three factors I think out: the heart, the brain, and the immunity. Okay. But you see, compared to this topic, longevity, these three things are incomplete. Okay, you have a very good brain, you don't have a good heart. Okay, you are in trouble. Okay. So this longevity put everything together. Okay. This is the spirit of post science. We see things from the whole, the whole picture, not just separating into partial picture. So this completeness is good for this discussion, you see. And I'm the first person to coin the word epigenetic lifestyle, to emphasize epigenetics. Okay, now I think people, you look over the literature just recently, recent 1 or 2 years, everybody talk about epigenetics. Also, everybody talk about lifestyle. Okay, you cannot just eat something to this few weeks and not doing the next few weeks. Okay, you got to have a system of extending your life. There's one quality about everybody is doing it. David and I are the old people who are doing it. The young people doing it doesn't matter. You see, they are going to live anyway. You see, and if David and I, if we fail, we die. It's not, we're doing it seriously, and young people need to start to follow, some advice for young people. Okay, so basically, this, what there's so much I can talk about, but there's so little time, and I'm publishing a paper end of next month, February 2022, on a subject called anti-epigenetics. Okay, I'm the guy who pushing epigenetics as a lifestyle. Okay, and I feel with this COVID-19, okay, vaccine. What is a vaccine? Vaccine is anti-epigenetic. Okay, what is most stark example of anti-epigenetic is It's a growth hormone. Okay, you take it, it's good for you, but soon, when you grow old, they give you cancer. Okay. Also antibiotics. Recently, there's an article published on antibiotics. They think antibiotics has become the third leading cause of health problem. Third leading cause. It just, almost 50% of the people start to become antibiotic become ineffective on almost up to 50% of the people. Okay. So there's a three world. The first is the macro world, that is human being or the mammal. There's a mini world, which is you have insects, ants. Okay. Then there's a micro world, which is all the bacteria, all the things we cannot see, virus. Okay. Today we are engaging a battle between the macro world and the micro world. Okay, macro and micro are fighting. Okay, and so far the micro world is winning. Okay, another one, nature is winning because nature provides this virus to sink down human population when it becomes too dense. Okay, and the human has some method to stop this sinking down by producing vaccine. Okay, this battle, you have to look at this battle. Then finally, it seems to me that nature has produced this Omicron to solve this pandemic. So it all seems to be on the nature's part. So I have enough courage to say that our Pole Science Institute, which I'm the founder, is different from today's science, today's knowledge. Okay, I like to raise some doubt first. Okay, before if I don't have enough time, I like to say the most important. The most important thing is this: DNA is designed to survive permanently. And it is because we are involving infinity. Infinity will never arrive. Therefore, life science solutions are not empirically verifiable. Okay, science is based on empirical verification, and this does not apply in life science. That I will claim no drug test can be conclusive because we can never reach infinity to say if this drug is good. Okay, it may be good for this generation if we have all this vaccine. But how about our children? Okay, our children may, after you take the vaccine, will affect our children. Okay, so I'm not against certain things, but you got to get the logic right. Okay. After science, life science, all involve infinity. You have to consider, the world is going to last to infinity. So infinity is not empirically verified. About therefore, Pole Science claims that the solution in social science must be become acceptable based on complete mathematical rigor. Solution in life science must be completely logical in order to be accepted because they are not empirically verifiable. Today, life science is based on doing experiments. Okay, for Pole Science, we say theoretical life science should be based on logic. Okay, just like computer science. Okay, I invented complete automated software, which identifies DNA as a complete automated software. Okay, so to us, theoretical life science is programming DNA. DNA is 0, 1, 2, 3 or ACGT. Okay, It's programming of DNA, programming and documentation of DNA. Until we have the complete understanding of DNA from a program point of view, all these tests, all these suggestions, we need to be careful. Okay. With this pandemic, a human being lost the war against the microbes. Okay. Again, just like in social science, our company predict the semi-long crisis, predict subprime war. Nobody else did it. Nobody else can do it because we are involved with Alan Greenspan, Bernanke. We discuss back and forth. If anybody got a solution or can explain it, we're glad to hear it. Okay, but with life science, it's more complicated. Social science involves 50 variables. Life science involves 500 variables. Okay, for the future generation, they should take a look at this post-science view of social science, life science, especially life science, because it's so relevant. So we need to do it what David and I are doing. Okay, just show people what we can do. Okay, David need to go take a test at Gordon Lock. Gordon Lock is my friend. Okay, he started the glycan age. So go talk to him. Maybe you'll get one for free. If you talk to him, you get one for free. If you just send in Hugh 20, you get 20% off. So this is what I'm thinking. We need to do it. We need to actually have some older people to show. People who are over 72 years old. 72 is the age when old people stop exercise. Okay, so anybody younger than 72, whatever they accomplish in age reduction, it's not really that relevant. Okay, until you reach 72, you find you cannot no longer exercise. Then you want to continue to show the world how much you can reduce your age. Then that is when things become very relevant. Okay, let's back to this important point of what part of the body is most important. The heart, the brain, and the immune system. See, the heart must not be damaged because the heart can only improve itself 0.5% every year. Once you damage your heart, the person is gone pretty much. Okay, so when you exercise is good, but if you do it too intensively, the tendency is you ruin your heart. Okay, so protect your heart first, most important. Then the brain. Okay, the brain has some problem. Our research shows, my own research, I actually just go dancing and I know what's happening to my brain, to my heart. Okay, the key point is immunity. Okay, why is immunity important? Because inflammation is what's causing an old person to look old. Okay, when an old guy crouching up, like people here, they're all very energetic. Okay, I'm a dancer. I go to clubs. I'm the best dancer. Okay, against 20 years old. Okay, actually, I get all the clubs up. Okay, inflammation is what's causing all these problems. The heart problem, the brain problem. Therefore, you need immunity. You need the antibody to get rid of all this inflammation, all the waste product from the inflammation. And where does the waste product, where does the virus all try to escape? Mainly they escape to the skin. So what people need to do, old people especially, who try to show they can reduce the age, is to drink lots of water. I drink water before, during, and after I dance. So I sweat so much. Okay, I change 2 or 3 shirts in every night. Okay, the virus is smart. They know there's no immunity on the skin or in the heart. Okay, so they escape to the skin. So, if you do not go dance, sweat out, the sickness just lingers on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But if you go dance, then you got all pumped out. So your body is clean. When your body is clean, the immunity will have time to get rid of inflammation in your brain, in your heart. Okay, so this age measurement is measure your immunity. Okay, therefore this measurement is I would trust it. It verify. What I did was David Sinclair, myself, and Gordon Law, we three of us we communicate, and David Sinclair introduced me to Gordon Locke. I told him I feel I'm reducing my age. You see, I just feel every week after I dance, I just feel younger. Okay, I told them that. Then they sent me a kit and I measured. I reduced my age by 28 years. Okay. So this is a real reduction. This is after I'm, very old age, I reduced that much. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your excellent analysis. I have to go for some question from the audience as well as because of times, I will have to go for the concluding remarks. So for Sir David Schumacher's, Madam Ale asked question, what is the diet related to longevity? If you share some diet and other things, and side by side, you also give your concluding remarks for today's session. After
Sure,
this question.
Sharif. I think we did talk about diet earlier.
Yeah.
My particular spin on diet is look at food as medicine. Look at what your body needs. There's different body types. All of us are the same, pretty much, but not exclusively. So we vary enough that we need perhaps different things as far as what your macronutrient contents are. Certainly quality of the food, no matter what your macronutrient contents are, is very important. Food is the basis. That's why I say think of food as medicine. It's better to take your medicine that way than in capsules or in injections if you can, but do whatever it takes to continue to improve your health, to improve your ability to move and think and be creative. And those are all very important. Now, on to concluding remarks. One of the things that, as I've been listening to everybody speak, which has been great, is the idea of the whole person. Marshall spoke about this first, I believe, and then Hugh did as well. And I think that's also very important. We need all aspects of the physical to be in play. We need to also address mental, which is very important, and how that has physiological effects and the overall spiritual nature of humans. All of those things are part of healthy aging and enjoyment of life as we move forward. That's one of the things I want to come back and just briefly talk again about the Healthy Aging Prize for Asian Innovation, because if you go look at what they are incentivizing, it's in all of those areas. All of those areas are very important. If we had more time here, I'd like to go in and discuss, and maybe we can in future shows, some of the things that those innovations can do on a day-to-day basis. And it's not all technology, going back to physical, mental, and spiritual. All of those things play together. One final point is, whatever we do, whatever you do in your daily life to improve, keep in mind that we need that nothing is permanent and nothing is perfect. So what I'm doing today may not be what I need to do tomorrow, and certainly isn't what I needed to do 10 years ago. So changing your mind is a necessity. Sometimes I'll link up with people that I haven't seen in a while, and they know what I'm interested in, and they'll ask me what I'm doing now, and they'll say, well, that's different than what you were doing before, and try to somehow interpret that either what I did then or what I'm doing now is incorrect or wrong. No, what's incorrect or wrong, in my opinion, is sticking with one approach no matter what you do, and not bending to the realities as they change and go forward. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's permanent. We need to involve the whole person. And with that, we can continue to make improvements and tune technology, yes, but we can also tune all the other aspects of our lives as we move forward. If we plan to be here for a good long time, we're going to continue to change. The world around us is going to continue to change. We need to adapt and we need to improve. So that's where I'll leave it for today.
Thank you. Thank you for your excellent analysis. Professor David Smith, I believe you want to share some.
I do. That is a slide I had talked earlier about trying to put into the discussion today. And these are some of the areas we look at. But one quick point before I get there, Marshall, I'm not quite 70 yet, so don't put me up that far. But I actually, after Hugh talked about it, I did do a lookup of my age. And I'm 2,159,308,800 seconds old. And as I began to look at it from that perspective, I like those numbers better than to say what my real age is. So that kind of works. It makes people do some math. But as you look at this chart, in the middle, it says, what can the government do to help us as we look at aging and life expectancy? And it's really review funding structure policy and really look at options beyond the current disease-focused regulation. And what do I mean by that? And that's where I think we see some of these changes there. If you look at a child born today, and I look at the statistics, if I'm born today, I should live without an episodic death to about 140 years old. And that's a big one. And we're beginning to see, though, a paradigm shift from disease-focused treatments to those that address the underlying mechanisms of aging, the biological systems of wellness. In fact, in some of the innovation literature in healthcare, a growing community of researchers believe that we have the tools to already extend healthy human life and should be transforming healthcare as we know it today. The parts around the circle are looking at some of the ways we're going to expand it. Nanotechnology is one of the health techs where we're looking at ways to deliver targeted therapies and make sure that we have the right amount of the medicines and drugs where they are delivered. And this is a place where you see some of the science fiction movies where you have a bot inside your body going through your bloodstream to deliver dosage, to go do different things like that. The technology's there doing it, where you can look at nanobots, nano pharmaceutical delivery devices targeted to repair things, and something called nanosurgery, where you can actually begin to do it. Then you're going to get artificial intelligence-based diagnosis, which identify both preventive methods and provide diagnosis. So it's not just treating the event, it's putting a quality of life into you to extend your life. The use of wearables and robotics. Many of us have smart watches that track our number of steps, that look at what our blood pressure is. I can tell you there's a couple of times when I felt my anxiety going up or my anger going up. I kind of looked at my watch and said, no, let's not do that, because my blood pressure just went up 25 points. So let's relax and pull that down. Robotics to do things that we can't do. Now, you can see exoskeletons today that I can use to lift heavy things. I can use exoskeletons to work my joints so that they're more flexible. Age tech is a whole area of promising new industry. If I am looking at particularly where I can combine Eastern medicine, Western medicine, where I can provide spiritual approaches of medicine, that's an area there's going to be a lot of growth. And you're going to see things also insurance tech, medication management. Our insurance system today is not designed to have people live to 140. Our social structures, where we look at retirement ages and things, are not designed for us to live to 140 years old. Uh, you're going to see some of the hallmarks of this researching in aging really change, because there's focus now on what are the underlying biological causes of aging. Edward talked about our strands of DNA on a telomere getting shorter, and we've got ways to go that. There's others where we're looking at other places, particularly mitochondrial dysfunction. We're looking at ways to help, as you talked about, looking at the heart. Heart ailments and the deterioration of the capacity of the heart are major things for aging. And aging therapeutics, how do you slow reverse changes and from it? A lot of different types of drugs and nutrition, and looking at novel targets there. Nutrition plays a huge part in that. Cell and gene therapy. Now, I was talking with a doctor and a friend of mine who wants to do gene editing. They have a hereditary condition, and they're talking about going into their 3 kids and doing gene editing to reverse that hereditary gene-based condition. And we can do that today. Wellness and prevention. One of the big upshots from COVID is many of the large organizations where they're having people work from home and things are putting new emphasis on wellness and prevention. Many of the Fortune 100 companies are setting up new programs on that. And you're also looking at smart homes, which will help that. And we see in the past the number of people falling, going into a hospital, and never leaving it was high. That statistics really going down now. And finally, the one at the bottom, age reversal. I think we're at the place where I can begin to regenerate some of our vital organs, where I can begin to regenerate parts for the body. And this traditional tissue regeneration, organ regeneration, 3D organ printing, and using different variations of the human growth compound, we will see that dramatically impact the future of our health. One last point in the wrap up on this, and just because it goes back to one of the questions that I would like to make sure that we answer well, is that there's many other supplements that we can take. In talking to some of my friends in the Longevity Association, they say make sure you have enough magnesium, enough vitamin A, enough vitamin D, enough zinc, enough iron. Some of the others that you should really look at is fish oils. Fish oils really help reduce inflammation and support cardiovascular health. There's others. One of the others is something called BCAA, and that's a branched chain amino acid. And I also take several other amino acids for mine to help me really go through this aging dichotomy. So what we need to do is we need to target the root causes of aging and disease. And as we understand this and can react to them, it has the potential to revolution the world of healthcare as we know it. And there's many, many implications, from startups to multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical organization, multi-billion-dollar healthcare organizations, the whole ecosystem of dealing with aging, and a rich ecosystem of new and emerging stakeholders. And of course, the regulatory environment and the university environment of applying the science to this process. We are well down the process of beginning to understand this and being able to react to it. But as you can see just from this one slide on the screen, it really is a fairly broad ecosystem that must be brought to bear to be able to see the benefits of the new advances in helping us live longer, function longer, and really help the aging become less and less apparent. And and Marshall, I actually think I'm 21 and not 18 because, if I'm only 18, there's places I can't get in. So, Sharif, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Professor David Smith, for your very good explanations. Mr. Marshalls, there is one question I want to take for you, Fazdin. What reduce our lifespan, and what is your concluding remarks for today?
Well, to answer that specific question, there are many issues that reduce our lifespan. Everything from violence, both domestic violence and country violence and all kinds of violence in humankind. It's part of the human nature. It's unfortunately. And if we look to our better selves, we could probably reduce that. Going back to what David said in his diagram, a lot of the elements that he presented in that diagram point to longevity, but also if you look at it, if you don't apply these things, you're going to have a reduced lifespan. So obviously health from disease is a reduction of lifespan. So whatever medicine can do, whether it's in the developed world or the developing world, and both parts of the world are contributing to the ability to deal with disease. As we saw some of the issues of the Omicron COVID-19 that came out of South Africa, it was South African scientists that actually identified it and brought it to bear. And it's important that it's a world approach to health, an approach to longevity, and an approach to not just longevity. I think longevity without quality of life is kind of a prison sentence. So I would speak more to the people in the developing world as well as the developed world to say quality of life is really the key factor here. And I think what David Smith put up in his diagram, I would add two elements to it. And David, more than happy to help you restructure that diagram. One is not only the technologies that you identified, but there are two more. One is ag tech, agricultural technology. And an example of that just came out and was released today, that a vertical farming company called Plenty just secured $400 million for its new vertical farming technology from who else? Walmart, because Walmart sells in the United States and parts of the world, in the Western world, tremendous amounts of green leafy vegetables. And so they are looking at how can they increase the quality of the vegetables and the leafy greens in what they sell to their customers. Obviously, there's tremendous amount of as I spoke about before, this farming, this industrialized farming. This is another form of farming that's less industrialized, and then it can contribute to better quality food and better quality use of water and soils. The other element I would add to David Smith's chart, which was an excellent chart, is environmental technology. And the reason I bring that up is there's a technology that David is very well aware of. It's formed through the thermal conversion of waste into a product that can actually improve water quality, improve soil health, and reduce GHG emissions. And it's a material known as biochar. It was recognized by the IPCC as one of the 6 tools to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve the march towards a 1.5 degrees centigrade Earth that we're trying to accomplish before it's too late. So I would add those 2 elements. But one thing for sure, David, I apologize. I said you're 18. You're really 21. You're true. That's because you can get into the bars with me. So that's okay. But on another note, I would say in my concluding remarks is that our focus that I want to add to this discussion, and the discussion has been admirable with Hugh's contributions, both David's and our previous guest who had to leave. I think what we're seeing here is that we are discussing and thinking, and we need a lot more thought and conversation about how we can improve the quality of life with longevity at the same time. And on that note, I wish everybody good health and good wealth.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Professor Ching, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yes, yes. I have to, admit that I'm close to 80. You know, when I dance with a 25-year-old, I all dancing. It looks, a bit, I tell them my age. Then I say I also measure at 48. So I told them not to spread this around. So the first thing I need to say is this. One person asked what causes, aging. Okay, if I say just one word, in my experience, it's inflammation. You got to get rid of all the pain and ache in your body. So then your immune system can attack cancer causing, problem, the inflammation in the brain, Alzheimer. Now they start to see Alzheimer is caused by inflammation. Okay, the heart has inflammation. Okay, so this inflammation age is what Gordon Locke is moving toward. Okay, now he has a glycan age. Glycan is a protection for the cell. Okay, it provides energy and it provide protection. So it's a good sign of immunity. Okay, so I'm for this glycan age measurement because it deals with immunity. Okay, so what I have done is instead of a biological age, I have invented another matrix called lifestyle matrix, LSM, lifestyle matrix. What it does is it measures, your weekly activities. All these guys who do research, they are way behind me. Okay, I say each person, for longevity, you should live week at a time. Live by the week. Every week you measure if your age is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so this lifestyle matrix measures, you can measure it as 1, 0, or -1. If it's 0, if it's 1, that means you're normally aging. If it's 0, it means you're not aging. You are breaking even. Like me, I'm -1. Every week, if I dance 3 times, I can. If I dance 2 times, I can reach 0. If I dance 3 times, I reach -1. Okay. All we care is every week. If we're growing older or younger, we don't bother with all this age measurement. So people who think they are growing younger, they should send me their lifestyle. Then I would sort of copy some of like David Shoemaker said that we need to change. We need to change it to whoever give us a better system, we should adjust to that. Okay. So this is a new thing, measure in terms of lifestyle, not in terms of biological age. Also live by the week. Okay. So this -1 and 0 has a tremendous implication. Okay. It implies that I have theoretically, at least practically, achieved immortality. Because I'm getting younger. When am I going to get old? When am I going to die? Okay. Not getting old, you can measure yourself. Okay. If you don't have any ache and pain in your body, you are okay. You are not growing old. Okay. So it doesn't really take some kind of measurement. It automatic comes. Okay. But measurement is also good. Like glycan, they get, actually my feeding verify glycan. Instead glycan measure me. Okay. I say I'm growing younger, so they measure, show verify what they have. You see, that's good. Okay. So all these people who dance with me, okay. I find that the foundation epigenetic lifestyle is happiness, because it's so happy to go dancing with them. Okay, so that promote me to go every week for three times. And the word the young people shout out when they're dancing with me is the two words most frequent. The first one is happy. Okay, the second word is freedom. Okay, this, they feel this. They gave me this feedback. Okay, so I think this is important to notice. And also for practical reason, I gave you some practical advice for all the audience too. In the post-science medicine, I invented post-science medicine, which believes that medicine are produced at the same, are created at the same time as food, created as food. So food for medicine, okay, David also mentioned this. You see, I gave two examples. Bee propolis for hay fever, okay, and also elderberry for flu. All the member of Posan Institute, they take those two. It's 100% pretty much, feedback. You see, so that's practical. Okay, so I think people have hay fever or they have flu. Everybody have flu. Okay, even with this this virus, you can protect yourself to a certain degree with elderberry. Okay, then finally, one interesting point is this: DNA is a complete automated software, which lead me to discover to make it, to start this invention of money. I actually invented money based on complete automated software, because this complete automated software allow human to eliminate all the technical barrier, all the memorization in computer, using computer. And I have invented money based on this elimination of memorizing. In other words, I can have an integer. The meaning of the integer remembered by the computer. If you can do that, then I invent integer gold. In other words, each integer represents a money. Okay, integer gold. Use integer as money, but the integer I remember by software, not by humans. Now they have blockchain. Okay, blockchain can remember who owns which integer. Okay, this is unlimited. Once we get into the age of life science, we're going to create things that have unlimited value. Okay, today we are not at that yet. We're not even in social science because nobody can predict financial crisis and this current health crisis. It's an embarrassment to the life scientists. Okay, this nature solved it. Let's see what happens. That's my prediction. Okay, nature solved it. Okay, good. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you everyone for joining today's session. This is really great session for our audience. I'm sure our audience really enjoyed today's sessions. I request all of our audience, please share our content with your government, with corporation, and with academy. And hopefully through this open dialogue, we can solve many problems from around the world. Uh, I want to give a special thanks to Professor David Schumacher, Professor David Smith, Mr. Marshall, and Professor Ching for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.